All right, so I will execute the initial load. I think they even moved execute package in the context menu. All right, so everything's loaded just fine. So I'll stop debugging, and let me jump over to Management Studio. And if I look at the dim customer table, or dim customer destination anyway, take a look at that. Just to verify, 200 rows have been loaded into that table. All right, let me also refresh my list of tables. And here's that CDC state table that was created. So if we look at that, here's what we end up with. Expand this out. So this is what the initial load has given us because of that CDC control task. This is what it's given us. This this state right here, that LSN or log sequence number, this is really just a long string that's used only by the CDC components. So this isn't something that you'll ever have to to really edit at all. In fact, don't ever edit that. It's probably a bad idea. But this is something that's only used by the CDC components. So this is basically marking that we had an initial load, and it happened from this time to this time. So it gives us our starting point, essentially. All right, so now we want to create the package for the incremental load. So if I jump back into Data Tools and create a new SSIS package. All right, let me rename it. There we go. And I'll just call this one Incremental Load. So we're going to add quite a few more things to this component, or to this package here. So this package is going to be just a basic incremental load. It's a very common scenario that you're going to run into. So first we take another CDC control task. And that's going to start the entire package. And this time, we just grab a new connection. So I'm just using that ADO.NET connection again. And then we have the CDC control operation. So it's going to be different this time. Now, for the incremental loads, what we want to use here is this option right here, Get Processing Range. So that's going to start our processing range. Variable containing the CDC states. Well, just with all of the, just with the other package that we created, with the CDC control task there, it's going to use the same type of variable. So just click New, and it's going to create it for me. CDC state, it scopes it to the package. All right, and then the connection manager for the database where the state is stored, again, it's already populated for me. And the table for storing that state, it's already there, of course, so I'll just choose CDC states. So all of the settings are going to be the same. The only exception is that CDC control operation. So we're just setting that to Get Processing Range. All right, so now we want to include a data flow task. So in the data flow task, here you can see some of the the other new components for SSIS 2012. First, I'm going to need under the other sources, we have this transforms. Other sources, the CDC source. So with the CDC source, this is going to bring in all of the new data and determine what it actually is. So the setup on this one, all we need first is the connection manager, because again, this is using the ADO.NET connection manager. And we're just setting it up to the source database or the source table. And then the CDC enabled table. So you'll notice it even specifies right there that it's going to need the CDC enabled table. So even if you tried to choose something that wasn't CDC enabled, which you'll notice there's only one there, you can only choose something that is enabled or has CDC enabled on the table level. So I'll just select my table. It already has the capture instance here, the dim customer underscore CDC. And then you have processing mode. So these are the types of changes that you can get. So you can capture all the changes with the old values, net changes, net with update mask, and net with merge. Normally, 2012 hasn't been around that long, so the CDC probably hasn't been used very often, but right now, typically the situation you're going to find is that you would use the net processing mode. And then the variable containing that CDC state, which is already there. So the great thing about this is it's almost like, I don't know, to me it feels almost like a wizard, how it just kind of walks you through everything. It doesn't leave a whole lot of room for error. It pre-populates a lot of the fields and just pretty much narrows down all of your options as far as tables and variables to only what's there and what's available. It's basically telling you we're not using anything other than this, so just pick from what we got. And that's about it. So we have our columns. You're going to notice as well these other columns in here. The start LSN, the operation, and the update mask. Those are all added by that CDC source. And that's how it's going to mark, what type of data it's getting. Okay, so now we have our CDC source. So now we're going to need the Cdc Splitter Transform. Now this is pretty nice because if I find, I think it's under Other Transforms, I have Cdc Splitter. I'm going to drag this out here and drop it. With the CDC Splitter, there's absolutely nothing I have to do. So that makes it pretty nice. You have your input and output columns, you can see their properties, and that's it. There's nothing that I have to manually go through and configure.